Hello and welcome to episode 19 of our Unit4 Financials by Code a Feature Spotlight series. In this episode, we delve into the developing laws in several EU countries regarding digital invoicing. There is emerging legislation in a number of countries for digital invoicing throughout Europe and the world. But Italy is, of course, the country we have most detail about, and let's not forget that Italy has really innovated in this field. The main reasons behind introducing e-invoicing in Italy were anti-tax evasion and anti-fraud, actively facilitating tax compliance, making companies more competitive. Italy has a long history of digital tax returns. Previously, there were systems called Spesometro and then, up until recently, the Esterometro. These allowed the tax authorities to keep track of digital VAT returns at a summary level only. They didn't go into the same level of detail that we now have with digital invoicing. B2G, business to government, digital invoicing began as far back as 2014, and B2B, business to business, digital invoicing has now been obligatory since 2019. The most important element of digital invoicing in Italy is the SDI, Sistema di Interscambio, which is a hub you send your customer's invoice to and download your supplier invoice from. But I should also say, you can choose to use the SDI directly, or you can use an intermediary service to forward the invoice to the SDI hub. But at the end of the day, the invoice has to go through the SDI. There are now all sorts of intermediaries and websites which are able to create invoices for you, even on your phone. So, for example, if you have a small business, you can use an online service to send invoices to your customers without having to know how to build an XML file yourself. The SDI hub is managed by the Italian tax authorities. It also has a portal which allows you to view your invoices. And for outgoing invoices, you can check on the delivery status and see if any errors are flagged. Previously, you would send invoices directly to your customer, but now you send them via the SDI. The e-invoice contains either the customer's VAT number or a unique identifier, which allows the SDI to then forward the e-invoice directly to the customer. That way, the SDI keeps track of the invoice. The e-invoice also becomes the official document for all VAT purposes. Before the SDI forwards the invoice to the customer, it assigns a unique ID to the invoice itself. The company that receives the invoice will receive notification of that ID. You can access a portal to view your invoices at any time. I'd like to repeat that Italian legislation mandates the use of the SDI hub. In fact, any invoices that haven't been transmitted via the hub are as considered not issued. Once an e-invoice is received, the SDI hub checks that the invoice is formally correct and forwards it to the recipient accordingly. Of course, you may still want to send copies as a courtesy, by email for example, or even by post if you wish. But what really counts from a legal point of view is sending the invoices to the SDI, the central exchange. You need to send invoices by the 15th of the month following the transaction date. There are penalties for not complying with these regulations. As you can imagine, the number of invoices sent via the SDI every year is quite impressive. For example, in 2020, more than 2 billion invoices were issued, of which 55% was B2B, business to business, 44% was B2C, business to consumer, 1% was B2G, business to government. It's also interesting that during the COVID lockdowns, thanks to the SDI, it was possible to identify those companies with the highest losses in monthly turnover and help them with contributions from the state where necessary. And, finally, a quick note about intermediaries. It now seems that some companies are moving away from using intermediaries and to process their data themselves. The French tax authority has announced that e-invoicing and e-reporting will be compulsory as from the 1st of July 2024. France has had mandatory e-invoicing for business-to-government transactions in place since 2020. This means that any B2G sales invoice must be an e-invoice and must be compatible with the country's designated platform for this, Chorus Pro. France has now announced that from July 2024, all companies subject to VAT will be required to accept e-invoices. Furthermore, the use of e-invoices along with e-reporting will start becoming mandatory for B2B transactions from July 2024 through to January 2026, depending on the company's size. Invoices can be issued through the Portail Public de Facturation, PPF, the public billing portal, via the Chorus Pro platform, which is the system currently used for B2G invoicing. Alternatively, businesses can opt to send invoices via an approved third-party commercial platform, known as a PDP. Under each system, businesses issue the e-invoice to the platform, and the platform does the rest, i.e., delivery of the e-invoice to the buyer and reporting to the French tax authority. The invoice can be created in one of three base formats compatible with the EU's e-invoicing standard: UBL, CII, Facture X. The Facture X format is the result of a partnership between France and Germany and is called Zugford in Germany. It seems that about 4 million companies will need to implement a new invoicing system in some way. As far as MDI is concerned, we have already started the analysis for France, and we are confident that our software is flexible enough to be able to manage the file specifications in France. For example, it's interesting to know that Facture X mandates that PDF files should contain the XML data structure. In Italy, it is the other way round, with the XML file being the main package and it possibly containing a PDF file as an attachment. The information available for Italy and France is greater than that for Spain and Germany. But just like in Italy, Spain first introduced digital invoicing for B2G, but B2B is going to be introduced more gradually. In 2024, companies with a turnover of more than 8 million euros are likely to start having to comply. Full-blown e-invoicing will probably be introduced for all remaining companies in 2026. Germany is moving a little more slowly than Spain. Germany already has B2G, business to government e-invoicing. They may decide to use the Zugford format for B2B purposes, as they are already doing with B2G. For more information or a demo of MDI, please do get in touch, and we are always happy to help.